Hi everyone, welcome to the Advanced Standing Research Methods class, also known as Social Work 541. And in general, more generally, welcome to the MSW program and the UB School of Social Work. In this, let me just give you a brief agenda for this video. I'll tell you a little bit about me, a little bit about our course. We'll take a look at the syllabus. And then take a look through UB Learns, and then I'll conclude the video with just a few thoughts about how to take advantage and sort of maximize your time in an online graduate learning environment. So, about me, my name is Brad Lynn. You may see my name, my full name somewhere. My full name is Braden, so you may see that listed on certain things, but I go by Brad. You're welcome to call me Brad if you like. Dr. Lynn is certainly, you are welcome to call me that. We don't need to be that formal, but that's fine. Professor Lynn is fine. I'm also, like I said, I'm fine with Brad. That level of informality doesn't bother me. I'm currently in a postdoctoral fellowship at the Clinical and Research Institute on Addictions. If you are familiar with downtown Buffalo at all, our office is right next to the original Anchor Bar on Main Street, and our center primarily does work related to addictions. My own work is sort of focused on emotions and alcohol. I'm interested in alcohol treatment, psychopathology, things that things that sort of facilitate recovery from alcohol use disorder and that kind of thing. At any rate, I've been teaching for the School of Social Work maybe 5 years now. I'm not quite sure. But I finished my MSW in 2012 from UB, and I finished my PhD in 2018. So before we move on, let me just say something about office hours real quick. So obviously we're still in this sort of quarantine situation, and I'm not always in my office, so it's sort of not centrally located, so it's kind of hard to just sort of show up there. So what I've done is sort of create a virtual open door office policy, and that is and so let me tell you how you access me. You can call my cell phone any day of the week, 7 days a week, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. My number is right here, 585-750-7328. I will answer if I'm available. So if I'm not in another meeting, if I'm not in, if I'm not with clients, that kind of thing, I will answer, and we can take care of whatever it is, whatever questions you have. If I cannot answer, leave a message and I'll call you back. If there's no message, I typically won't call back. That's I tend to think that people who don't leave messages, that's probably a spam, so I don't want to risk calling a spam number. And it usually takes me about 24 hours or so to call back. So I'll usually call back by the end of the next business day. If 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. doesn't work for you, you have to work late, you have other responsibilities, we can arrange a time to talk outside of those hours. We can arrange a time by email, we can arrange a time to talk by Zoom, whatever you want. I just sort of picked 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. because it seemed just sort of like a reasonable time frame. I typically don't call back after 9 p.m. or I typically don't make a phone call after 9 p.m. only because I don't want to disrupt people. Again, that just seems like sort of the polite thing to do. I'm also widely available by email. I check email constantly. I check it on the weekends, so it typically takes me less than a day to get back to someone via email. But give me a day to get back to you. The one thing I would ask is that you don't text me. The reason for that is that texting is a pretty informal means of communication, and one of the things we're trying to do in an MSW program is sort of cultivate a professional identity. So we text friends, we text family members, keep that in sort of the your personal life. think about your education as sort of a formal phase or a formal part of your identity, and exclude texting from sort of the formal part of your identity. Phone calls and email, that's preferred. There's also a discussion board on UB Learns. You can post questions there as well. So a few little things about our course. So our course is asynchronous online, and what that means is that each week on a Monday, a new sort of content folder will open up. I have them set to open like at 12:01 or whatever, Monday morning, and then they close like at midnight or 11:59 or whatever it is the following Sunday. So assignments are always due on Sunday by the end of the day, 11:59 p.m. And then, that next day, Monday, sort of a new content module will open up. We'll look at the syllabus here in a minute, but there typically is something to do each week. Everything you need, I'll show you this in a second, everything you need is typically on UB Learns. The only exception, obviously, would be the textbook. You have a physical copy of that, or a copy that exists on an iPad or a Kindle Reader or something like that. Typically, each week there's going to be some reading, a couple of video lectures from me. They tend to total about 30 to 60 minutes in length, and then an activity or an assignment of some kind. There are no tests in this class. Again, we'll look at the syllabus here in a second. But there are a couple of written assignments and then a couple of smaller assignments sort of spread throughout the course of the semester. Our textbook is Research Methods for Social Workers, a practice-based approach. It's by the Faulkners. They are a husband and wife team. I believe they're in Michigan, but I could be wrong. The book is currently in its third edition. This is, I just happen to have at home, this is the first edition here. Oops, that's the first, like I said, that's the first edition. My third edition text is in my office, actually, but it's easy to get off of Amazon or wherever you get books. You can get whatever edition you want, so it does not have to be the third edition. I haven't looked, but my hunch is that the first and second edition would be much, much cheaper than that current third edition. So if it saves you a couple of bucks, get one of the other editions. Excuse me, I had to reach it. The other text is the APA manual, which is currently in its seventh edition. And for the APA manual, you do need the most recent edition. So there's some changes from the sixth edition that sort of take precedence. So the sixth edition is no longer sort of relevant. Oops, let me, so I'm going to pause the video real quick and just switch over to the syllabus, and we will talk through the syllabus. Okay, so here's our syllabus. This is just obviously the electronic version, but the exact same as what's available to you on UB Learns. So some information about our course. This is my information, my phone number again. I didn't list my office number only because given the shelter-in-place orders, I'm rarely in my office. So you have my cell phone. And again, the office hour policy here, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., so on and so forth. My email is here, Brad Lynn. Lynn is L-I-N-N, so my email is bradlinn @buffalo.edu. Again, we're welcome to email. I check it frequently, and you're also welcome to call. So course description, course objectives, I'll let you read those at your when you review the syllabus this week, and then the CSWE competencies. You can skim this. This is an objective or an objectives matrix that sort of shows how the assignments map onto the CSWE objectives. Information about our textbooks. HIPAA modification. If we do have to modify the syllabus, it's usually to push deadlines back. Keep an eye out for emails or announcements from me. That's how I'll communicate them. Information about disabilities here. If you have accommodations, follow up with me this week with a phone call or an email. And then some information about your responsibilities. I would draw your attention to this section right here, which is use of quotes. We're going to have some video lectures on writing at the graduate level and sort of moving one's writing past the use of quotes. So my general advice about quotes is to avoid them. And if you're used to writing with quotes, keep a lookout for the writing lectures that will be posted, and then don't hesitate to get in touch with me if you have concerns or questions about writing. Submitting assignments is always done through UB Learns. There's always going to be a Dropbox, so to speak, in that week's content. If for whatever reason UB Learns isn't cooperating, or something doesn't look right, attach it to me in an email, send it off. It's not a big deal. And then there's some information here about the research tutor, UB's policy on sexual assault self-care. Again, I'll let you read that here in a second. This is the part on assignments, and let me actually skip this, and we'll come back to it here in a second. So the assignments are listed here. This is the point value. We'll come back to this in a second. Oops, that should be on the next page. And then here is our here's our course schedule. So this is what we're going to be covering. The date here, this is always a Monday, so this is when sort of the new content will open up. And then note that there is an assignment due just about every week. The reading is listed here, and then this is obviously what's due here. So there is no reading in weeks 6, 9, and 10. And in general, the reading I think is pretty manageable. We cover more information in the beginning of the semester, and that's to sort of prepare you for the assignments, sort of get you the information you need so that you can get to work on those assignments, and then it sort of tapers off. And actually, as we get down to the last 3-4 weeks, that kind of thing, there will be less reading, and the lectures from you will be a little bit shorter, and that's to maximize the amount of time you have available to work on some of the longer papers that are due in class. So the last week of class is actually July 27th, and there will be no reading and no lectures from me. You have the time that week to finish up the single system design papers, which we'll talk about here in a second, and then talk about more over the course of this semester. Those will be due August 2nd, which is the sort of very last Sunday in class, and then once August 2nd hits and those papers are submitted, you'll have a few weeks off to get some rest and take a deep breath before the fall semester starts. So let's back up here. So this is sort of the list of assignments. Again, they all correspond to what's listed on the schedule below. These are all things that I'll cover in sort of my video lectures and video updates each week. There is an opportunity for extra credit. You can earn, it ends up being up to 2 points. So there are course evaluations. UB emails them to you. And I will award extra credit to the class based on the percentage of people who complete the course evaluation. Again, that mid-semester course evaluation and end of the semester course evaluation. So if 100% of students complete the course evaluation, everyone gets a point. If 50% of students complete the course evaluation, everyone gets half a point, that kind of thing. If it was 75%, everyone would get 0.75 points, and so on and so forth. And then this is just the grading, the grading ranges that and what they translate to in a letter grade. I think that's pretty standard. So again, one more thing here. Since we may all have different editions of the textbook, what I did, instead of list chapter numbers, I listed the title of the chapter. So you can just look in the table of contents for the appropriate chapter. If you have any questions, or it's not immediately apparent which chapter you should be reading based on which edition of the book you have, shoot me an email and we'll get it straightened out. So I'm going to pause the video again and switch over to UB Learns, and we'll talk through that real quick. So here we are on in UB Learns, and the way I've set this up is the first page you should encounter when you log into this course is the announcements page. Now, what I'm showing to you now doesn't have any announcements because I'm recording the video that's going to form the content of the first announcement. So you'll access this video from the announcements. But I think probably the most important thing for me to show you is over here in this sort of left-hand navigation page, or this, I don't know what you would call it, I don't know, toolbar or something maybe, at any rate. So syllabus obviously would be available here, but everything that you need is organized in modules. Now my view looks a little bit different than yours, and that's because I have the instructor view. So when you click onto modules, the only thing that you'll see here is this module 1 sort of content folder. I do have the other, so you can see what my view looks like. I do have the other modules set up, and they're always set to open on a Monday morning. So when we click into module 1 here, everything you need is listed here. And again, it will look slightly different because I just have to finish sort of putting this together. But the reading is listed here. And if there's any articles, they're listed here. I always have the links to video lectures here. And then for week 1, there's just sort of 2 short tasks, a discussion board, and then send an introductory email to me. So I hope that by putting everything in the weekly module, let me back up for a second. So if there were a paper due in a given week, what I would put down here towards the bottom is a Dropbox for that particular paper. And again, if something just, if it doesn't look right, or it's acting funny, just attach it to an email and send it off to me. So what I was going to say a second ago is I hope that by putting everything sort of in these modules, it sort of minimizes any confusion or anything like that. But as always, if there's questions or anything like that, don't hesitate to get in touch. Over here in the discussion board, if you click on that, there is a general discussion board for you to post questions about content or anything that you have. I will check that a couple times a week and respond as necessary. So I'll pause the video one more time, switch back to my PowerPoint slides, and we'll finish up here. All right, so just a few concluding comments on sort of succeeding in an online graduate course. I'm recording this, it's like May 21st or whatever, 2020. So we're sort of still, at least in New York State, we're still sort of coming out of a few weeks of quarantine, and I realize that learning in an online environment may not be what it is that you chose. This may sort of have been forced on you. But what I really don't want is for you to feel isolated, and for you to feel as though you have to navigate this course and any challenges associated with it on your own. So if you are having trouble, if you are having questions, get on the phone, shoot me an email, post on the discussion board, whatever it is you want to do. Um, Students are a big part of my life. It is really important to me that students succeed. I know that research can be intimidating or mystifying or whatever you sort of want to call it. It's my goal for students to succeed in this course and to make research less intimidating, less demystifying. Again, sort of whatever you want to call it. So, absolutely, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me if there's something you want to talk about or questions you have or something like that. Um, in general, with online courses, I think it's really easy for distractions to occur. Um, uh, so, I know sometimes there's a temptation to watch a lecture, or have put a lecture, course lecture on while someone's, while you're watching TV. I'm not convinced that's the best way to do it. I think it's still important to approach online courses um, sort of formally and professionally. So when you're sitting down to watch lectures or do the readings, I think it's important to minimize distractions, take notes, and um, just as you would if you were seated in a classroom attending a lecture. Um, Now, the advantage of an online course is that rather than packing all of the learning into one day, you can spread it out over the course of several days, over the course of the week if you wanted to. So I think in general, if you spend a couple hours on course activities over the course of the week in this course, you would be in good shape. And again, I hope you're taking notes as you would if this were sort of a regular seated class. With respect to note taking, it's there's a lot of information sort of thrown at you in graduate school. I think one of the things to do is to sort of summarize your notes from time to time, and typically the way I do that is to I almost call it taking notes on notes on my notes. Um, and I usually ask myself what one or two points encapsulates this reading or this lecture or this piece of information that I just encountered. And that's sort of, the thing I try and remember or take away from it. A few additional thoughts, and let me just move myself up here real quick. I think it's important that we recognize that learning is tough, requires multiple attempts. I mean, imagine if the task was to do a backflip or something like that. If you had to do it sort of first thing, that would be really difficult. And if I had to do a backflip right now, I would fail miserably. But if you had time to sort of learn things, you had multiple attempts, you had someone coaching you, you had support, um, and you were willing to tolerate failure, tolerate setback, you'd be able to do it, right? And that's the same thing with learning about social work research or social work intervention. It's a learning at the graduate level is challenging. The information is challenging, and there's a lot of information coming at you. So repetition can help, and I find I find that reviewing notes from time to time is really helpful for sort of consolidating information. I do that every week. I review the notes I took on the articles that I read in that given week, and then every now and then I look back even further and review notes from previous weeks. And that repetition helps me to learn something. In this case, I'm learning everything there is about alcohol use disorder. That's part of my job as a postdoctoral fellowship. And again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record here, but if you find yourself struggling or procrastinating or falling behind or just something's not going right, get in touch with me and let's talk about it, and we'll get you the support you need to be successful in this class and in the MSW program. Lastly, I think learning to become a social worker is a fun process. It's an exciting process. Um, I started my MSW 10 years ago now. Um, um, And although I'm in the research side of things right now, social work is filled with wonderful people. It's an incredibly rewarding profession. So I'd encourage you to engage with your peers, the university, the School of Social Work, the community, me, and everyone else that you can. This is a fun. It's a fun time. It's a fun process. It's an intensely rewarding time and process as well. So with that, I will conclude this introductory video. Again, welcome to Social Work 541. Looking forward to our semester together, and we'll see you soon.